I'm Dr. Heather Nelson, and this is a 5-minute pedagogy class. One of the big trends over the last 75 or 100 years or so has been evidence based or research based pedagogy. But what does that mean, and how does that change your teaching like today? Well, in its most basic form, research based pedagogy is taking what we learn in the research lab or through asking good questions and applying it to how we teach singing. Now, the problem is that research can be a pretty hairy beast because this system here is like super duper complex. There's so many intricate things that are happening all at the same time that to try to study the whole thing in one paper is like not even possible. So researchers will often take very small little details of the vocal production and ask really specific questions to get really detailed answers. And those don't always translate 100% into how you are teaching, singing in your voice studio like right now. But when we take all of what we've learned over the last centuries or so, we have learned so much about how the voice works. And it really has changed our teaching through the dedicated work of voice scientists and researchers. Now, if you want to be a teacher that is more confident in reading research and maybe applying that to how you teach, that is a skill that really needs some time to develop. I don't know anybody who is like really, really, really good at reading research from the get go. So, here's a couple of things to hang on to right now as you might be getting started with this. The first thing is to know where to find the research. And we generally look for new research in journals and at conferences. One of the big journals in our profession right now is Journal of Voice. That's put out by the Voice Foundation. It's centered in Philadelphia. They also put out a conference every year called Care of the Professional Voice. Now, in a journal, an author will submit a manuscript to the editors. The editors will look over it. That's the process that we call peer review. And they'll basically, like, does this thing hold water? Are what the author's saying true and accurate? Are there any suggestions that could be made to make the paper better? And through that process, the authors get to a final version, and it's printed in a journal or it's rejected. And then we get a printed version, or sometimes it's a digital version of research that has been done by voice scientists, teachers, researchers, singers, whatever. Because it's been through the peer review process and examined by people who generally know what they're talking about, when we get a journal, we can be fairly confident that what we're reading is accurate, and that's really helpful. The most cutting edge research on the voice is really given at conferences. And a lot of times, what's in a conference can be later put into a journal, but because they don't have to necessarily go through the whole uh, uh, editorial process, you get a little bit fresher research at a conference. The downside to that is money and time. Yeah, so take that for what you will. But if you want to get better at reading research, a couple of things to help you when you get that research in your hot little hands. We generally follow the same kinds of structures when we're writing a paper. That helps us to kind of know what to expect and know where to find information in a paper. So, 5 sections that you're going to want to look for in a research article. The first is the abstract, and that usually comes right at the beginning of a paper, and it is a summary, usually 250 words or less or so. And you can read through an abstract and kind of know, is this going to be worth your time to read the rest of the paper? It usually gives a good overview plus most of the conclusions that the authors come to. The first main section of a paper is the review of literature. And this is like the breadcrumb trail that the authors have followed, looking through prior research and kind of drilling down to the questions that they're going to be asking in their paper. The next is the methods. This is what did the authors do in order to answer those questions. A good methods section, you should be able to read it and then redo their experiment. And if you can't, then there's some things missing in the methods. The next is results, and that's pretty much what it sounds like. What happened when they did the method? What were the results of that? And my favorite section is the last one. That's the discussion section, where the authors basically take those results and put them in context. What do these mean? And I almost always read the discussion section first. When I'm reading a paper, I tend to read them out of order. The discussion kind of gives me an idea of what the authors are aiming for, and then I can go back and see, okay, did the questions they asked get to that? Did the methods they used really answer those questions and get to what the authors say that they mean? And that for me is helpful. Now, if you want to get better at this, you just got to keep practicing. It's a little bit like if you were to try to learn to sing Russian opera. I don't know anybody who's not a native Russian speaker who could sing Russian arias from the get go just like that. There's a process to learning how to do it, and some of the process is being bad at it for a while. And so be brave enough to be bad at it for a little bit. Just keep going. And if you want help, I'm here for you because this is my jam. We can work together to go through some papers, help you get a little more adept at reading them, feeling more confident, and also discuss how can you take this research and put it into your teaching context. Sometimes knowledge for knowledge's sake is just fine. But if that research can inform the way that you're teaching, that's a win-win. Now, if this isn't for you, don't worry about it because not everybody gets excited about research like I do. I'm just that way. And if you are loving the way that you're teaching and you don't care a whit about reading a research article, don't worry about it. You can be a fantastic teacher without ever reading one single article. Trust your gut, do your best. You're a fantastic teacher without it. If you do want to get better at it, moving in that direction is possible and it can actually be fun. I hope this informs your teaching. Have a great week and thank you for watching.